Rev up your engines!
Well, here's good news and here's bad news. Turns out Jaguar isn't going to be selling cars in the United Kingdom for a whole year. I mean, if they never made them forever, I wouldn't care, right? That's the good news. But the bad news is they're going to brand themselves as only electric vehicles. They're only going to be making electric vehicles. Jaguar company says they won't sell a single car for a whole year as they re-up all their manufacturing to only make electric cars. They're going to become an all-electric luxury brand by 2025. But they need to take a 12-month break so they can set it up to build the electric car. Now, the F-Pace is the only remaining Jaguar car that isn't electric. And the I-Pace EV and E-Pace SUV will cease production too soon. And then they're going to make only electric cars. Well, I find this hilarious because the one problem with Jaguars throughout the histories were poor electronics. Now they're going to make all electric cars. Woo-wee, good luck on that one. But realize, of course, Jaguar is owned by Tata, the Indian company, and the Chinese own some of it too. So who knows? Maybe they'll be making these electric Jaguars all in China, where they seem to have a better idea how to make electric cars. I wouldn't want one made in England, I'll tell you that, if it was an all-electric car. Director of Jaguar said that delivery of the brand's new electric GT that's already designed won't begin until 2026. So there'll be a year when you can't buy a new Jaguar in the United Kingdom. Now, what are these poor dealerships of the Jaguar going to do? Well, I feel so sorry for them. Well, their manager says, well, retailers will focus on used cars and after-sales services, they call it. In other words, fixing the stupid things as they break the Jaguars. They break down all the time. So they'll probably have plenty of work to do fixing the broken Jaguars that are still going down the road. Well, if this is actually all true and Jaguar isn't going to be making anything but electric cars, guess what? Don't go out and buy a gasoline Jaguar anytime soon. How are you going to get parts? Who's going to fix them? It's bad enough getting them fixed and finding parts as it stands. They don't sell all that many Jaguars. Tell you the truth, I mean, last year and the year before, people were even contemplating a company. Maybe we should just forget Jaguars. The company's called Jaguar Land Rover, right? Yeah, and they were even thinking about, we'll just dump those Jags, man. We're not making any money. But they're making money on the Range Rovers, but not what they used to. They had a statusy name, and the Chinese, everybody was buying them, but now that's kind of dying down, and they're even have a hard time selling them. Bad quality control, more competition from China, right? So even they're kind of dying down, but the actual Jaguar itself, they should have gone out of business years ago. It's just a snob appeal thing. They're the greatest cars in the world by any stretch of the imagination, and now, I guess they're going to take a break of a year, then start making electric-only cars, and I can't wait to see what those things cost. One guy suggested that they're going to start at $100,000 or so. So, selling to the rich, you always think you're going to make money. Well, the rich are very picky, and they might not like the new electric ones because a lot of the new electric ones, Mercedes has a hard time selling their electric cars. Hey, rich people don't want inconvenience having to wait to charge up a car. Rich people want the most convenience of all. So these guys might be having their wires crossed with their electric car ideas. Well, you got to laugh at this. Stellantis shareholders in the United States are now suing Stellantis because the stock went down. Now, I laugh at this because you followed me for any length of time. Even my grandfather, who was a mechanic, he didn't like Chrysler products because even back in the day he said they were crap, right? Well, they've gotten worse and worse. Fiat bought them, they got worse. Well, of course, Stellantis told all the shareholders, we're doing great. They're suing Stellantis because they said most of 2024, Stellantis gave overwhelmingly positive assessments about inventories, pricing power, new products, and operating margin. Then when the truth came out July 25th, their operating income fell 40%. Now they're saying, you lied to us. Well, let me tell you, I've told people for decades, don't buy Chrysler products. Well, if you don't buy Chrysler products, you certainly would not buy their stock, you know? I hate to tell you people, but unfortunately, eventually the rubber hits the road, and a company, to have good stock value, has to make good products that people buy an awful lot of. Now, Tesla was just bizarre. It was future. It was a belief. It's like a religion, a Tesla religion. We're all going to buy these electric cars. And the stock was worth more money than Ford, GM, and all these companies put together for a company that made a handful of cars. Well, now it's kind of coming home to roost, and people are realizing, gee, you know, half the people who buy these cars, when they get rid of them, they don't even get another one. They don't even get an electric car. They get a regular car. So the handwriting's probably on the wall for Tesla stock to start going. And now, of course, Elon's saying, well, don't worry, I'm going to make robots. I'm going to have robots that's going to take over everything. I'm going to have artificial intelligence stuff. That's going to make me a fortune. I'm going to be worth $1 quadrillion, right? So, you know, he's trying to play the old future and not the present. While Stellantis lied about what they were doing, lied about they were making money, the hand over fist they weren't. Now they're being sued by their own stockholders now. To me, they don't have a leg to stand on because all of the stuff that companies say, if you ever read the brochures in the bottom, they say, these are forward-facing things and might reflect reality, blah, 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 blah. They won't get very far with it, right? Let's just face the facts. Bad enough you were dumb enough to buy a Stellantis vehicle. Well, hey, buying their stock, that's sort of like doubling down, showing double stupidity. They don't make good cars. The stock isn't going to hold up either. Well, something weird is going on at Toyota, because check it out. Now, the Toyota Racing Development is freaking out because their NASCAR engines that Toyota builds are breaking. Something that hardly ever happened. Last year they had one break. Now they have a whole bunch of them breaking. What is going on at Toyota? So far this season in NASCAR, Toyota's drivers have had major issues on the track, and 4 of them have. Last year was only 1. So it's 4 times the problem. They're saying, oh, maybe it's the valves, maybe it's that. Well, there's something wrong with Toyota, period. This is their fancy race car development team, right? Toyota Racing Development. And they had to fix all those, replace all those 100,000 V6 turbo engines that they put in their Tundras and some of the Lexuses. Now their race cars are breaking down. Something's amiss at Toyota. The general manager of TRD, Tyler Gibbs, says the root cause seems to be some inconsistency in the quality of our valve springs. Let's face the fact. What's Toyota known for? Reliability, durability. The race cars aren't holding up now. They said, well, the valve springs, they're making these things, or they're buying the springs from somewhere. They're screwing up, right? It's bad enough that the regular cars, you're supposed to have the highest tech in your race cars. And now, last year 1 of them broke. Now 4 of them are breaking. This tells you there's something going on at Toyota. They need to start whipping their guys back into shape because they're making quite a bit of mistakes that they never used to make. And it will bite them in the rear end if they don't fix it. Are they going to end up like Ford with, recalls every 2 seconds about stuff breaking? Who knows? But if the racing division has a problem where their highest tech engineers and stuff are, that says something. Finer Thing says, I got an 03 Honda Odyssey. My battery and door lights are on after the alternator was replaced. After 600 miles, the alternator died again. I got another O'Reilly alternator and replaced it again. This time the battery light stayed on as other ones. What do you think has happened? All right. Well, numero uno, I don't advise on buying things like O'Reilly rebuilt alternators. I once did that for a customer. He wanted to save money. He had a Nissan Maxima. We went through 6 O'Reilly alternators. They were all bad. I said, will you please go to the dealer and buy a new one? He did. I put it on, never saw the car again. It worked perfectly fine for years and years. Your alternator charging battery light is on, and it didn't happen until you put that second alternator on. You just got another bum alternator. That's the problem with these. Look where it's rebuilt. It's probably rebuilt in either Mexico or China. They don't do such a hot job rebuilding. Generally, what I see in that all the time. Theoretically, if somebody did a bad job and they shorted wires while they were doing the work, now, I don't know who did the work, but if you're ever going to do work like an alternator, first thing you do is you disconnect the battery. So now there's no power in the system. So it doesn't matter what wires touch what when you take it apart. There's no power going to them. And if power was going to them when they did the work, they could have shorted things out. That's totally possibility. But you bought an alternator from O'Reilly. It lasted 600 miles. Then you had to get another one. As soon as you put that one on, the battery light was on. Get your money back and get a brand new Honda OEM alternator and hope that if somebody else did the work, that they didn't leave the battery connected and then shorted wires off to the frame and then boom. They could have wiped out the wiring system of the car, too. Well, it looks like wind power is starting to power down. The Danish wind power giant Ørsted is now delaying a bunch of major U.S. offshore projects after 2 Atlantic wind farms have been scrapped and hundreds of jobs have been laid off by the company. Now, they're finding out that they make power-generating windmills, right, the wind turbines, for a living. If it costs too much money, they can't do it. It's got to be economically viable. And what does Ørsted say? We have to make ourselves leaner and more efficient because of soaring costs, inflation, and higher interest rates. Just like you buy a house, the interest rates are up, right? Well, the interest rates are up on those super expensive wind turbines. And people are like, oh, they cost too much. We're not even going to build those stupid things. Or they're borrowing money to build things. And then they find out that, gee, it's going to cost us so much more to build them, but they're paying a system amount of money to build it. So now we're losing money on a deal and they're pulling back on it. Now, Ørsted has pushed back the start of commercial operations at the Revolution Wind Project off of Rhode Island, where I am half the year, right? Now, that, of course, has to do more with the ones that they're building, and the blades are coming apart, and they had to stop the entire operations, and now the government's involved. Okay, this isn't safe. You can't run them. You can't turn them on. We have to study it. You got to pick up all those broken pieces that are going in people's beaches, and people are getting mad as can be. So it's more than just interest rates. It's basically the whole thing is a giant, what you might call a crap storm. They use other words, but they don't like that on YouTube, so I'll call it a crap storm instead. It's all coming back on these wind farms. And guess what? The winds aren't blowing in the right direction for them anymore. They're starting to fall apart before they even build the things. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.